The Liberty Flames were last year's Group of Five champion as they got a shot to go to a New Year's Six bowl game. But a New Year's Six bowl game this year means something a little bit more to Group of Five teams. It means a spot in the college football playoff. And Liberty is absolutely a team that can still get back there. Jamie Chadwell's back for another year. Kaden Salter's back for another year. So can the Liberty Flames be the Group of Five representative in the college football playoff? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate. Today, I want to welcome you to my channel and welcome you back to Prediction Season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams. I'm predicting each and every one of them this summer, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. And whether you're a Flames fan or not, thank you so much for watching this video. Help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you would like to continue to support what I do here on YouTube, like, comment, share, watch my other videos, and interact with the channel in any way you can, because any way you interact with the channel helps to support it. We're going to dive on into talking about the Liberty Flames, but before we do that, you got to know how we're going to do it. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the day, we're going to go through the Liberty Flame football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. A couple more things before we do start. Right over here are going to be the stats of the team either offensively or defensively put up last season. And, of course, dear viewer, for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. So with no further delay, let's talk about this offense for Liberty that was so good a season ago. And while it was pretty average at throwing the football, this was one of, if not the best rush offense in the entire country last season. 293 rushing yards per game. And I'll talk about why that number may not be going down in 2024. Got to talk about the quarterback room first, though. When you do lose Jonathan Bennett out of that room, he threw 6 passes last year, only completed one of them, was the primary backup. So you do lose him through the transfer portal, which does hurt a quarterback room, believe it or not, even though he didn't necessarily play a whole lot last year. You get Nate Hampton back to the quarterback room. You get Ryan Berger, who's an App State transfer, coming into the room, but Kaden Salter is the headline here. Last season, he was absolutely fantastic. 2,876 passing yards with 32 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. Yes, I know the passing numbers are not as great as the rushing numbers, but this was still a pretty good team at being able to throw the football every single game. Salter had 61% completion percentage, and wouldn't you know it, was also a 1,000-yard rusher last season, 1,089 yards and 12 touchdowns and 163 carries, including sack yardage. Those of you doing the math at home, 6.7 yards per carry. Really, really good dual threat quarterback. He is a huge reason why this Liberty team was so successful last year, and he will be a big reason again why they again will probably end up being successful in 2024. The running back room, this is why the rushing attack will be as good, if not maybe even better in 2024, because you don't lose anybody out of this running back room. You return everyone. That includes a 1,400-yard rusher from last season, and Quentin Cooley, 1,401 yards with 16 touchdowns, 221 carries. That's 6.3 yards per carry. Quentin Cooley is one of the best running backs in the entire country. Now, I know this is a run-heavy Liberty offensive system, but Quentin Cooley does it really, really well, and he is a very, very fun player to watch. Him and Salter make for a very dangerous quarterback-running back duo, but Quentin Cooley has helped Billy Lucas, James Joyner Jr., and Von Blue also all return to this offense. Lucas just shy of 600 yards last year, Joyner 251 yards, and Blue 116 yards. Both of them had, or I should say all three of them had at least 19 carries, 19 for Blue, 43 for Joyner, and 114 for Lucas. This is a run-heavy offense that returns everybody from last year and will be really good, if not as good or better than it was in 2023. 2024 will be another big year for the Liberty rushing attack. However, for this wide receiver room, it does take a lot of hits, as it does lose a lot of pieces, especially some of its better ones, through the portal and due to graduation. Due to graduation, well, you're going to still be losing some top guys. Noah Frith is gone. He had 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, third leading receiver on the team last year. Elijah Smoot and Aaron Bedgood, those are your 4th and 5th leading receivers respectively. Both of them around the 220-yard range. Both of them had a pair of touchdowns as well. But the main loss out of this wide receiver room is C.J. Daniels, an exceptionally talented player that had 1,067 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns a season ago. He is transferred off to hopefully be that lead wide receiver with the LSU Tigers in the SEC. You also do lose Errol Rogers Jr. to the transfer portal as well. He's transferred over to Southeastern Louisiana. That is an FCS level program. Yeah, and then you don't really lose anyone out of your tight end room either. So, okay, who comes back in this wide receiver room? Well, you do get Treon Sibley back. He was the second leading receiver behind CJ Daniels last year and was second on the team in every major category. 23 catches, 464 yards, and 4 touchdowns for him last season. Kylan Austin and Reese Smith coming back. But again, with all of those losses and all of those guys graduating, you felt like you were missing something in the wide receiver room. Not to fret, dive on into the transfer portal, and they got themselves some pretty darn talented pieces. Dante Lee is coming in. Tyson Mobley is coming, Dante Lee is coming over from, give me 1 second, I will find out what logo this is. Okay, I figured it out. Dante Lee is coming over from Shaw University. Tyson Mobley is another transfer coming in. He comes over from Coastal Carolina. And then why not? You get a couple Power 5 transfers as well. Julian Gray was a former 4-star coming out of high school. He's coming over from NC State. And Elijah Canyon is over from Purdue. In the tight end room, you return every major contributor from last year, which includes these two guys that were your top 2 leading receivers from last season, Bentley Hanshaw and Austin Henderson. I'll fix that spelling. And then you do lose a lot of pieces on the offensive line as well. Xavier Gadlin, if I mispronounced that name, I apologize, and Jonathan Graham are both gone to the NFL, and you lose Chase Mitchell and Brian Hannibal through the transfer portal. Not Brain Hannibal, Brian Hannibal, and returning on the offensive line will be Jack Trucker, Jordan White, Xavier Gray, Aaron Fenimore, and Austin Hayes. And you do get a transfer coming into the offensive line room as well in John Paul Flores. He is a transfer coming over from from Louisville. You do have a North Carolina transfer in DJ Geth, who comes over to this room as well. So let's talk about the offense for Liberty overall, and I think I've spoken on everything I need to speak of. The rushing attack is going to be really, really good, and I think it's going to be up to these wide receiver pieces through the portal to kind of step up and play bigger roles. Could that passing number take a dip in 2024? It's a possibility, yes. I have a feeling it'll stay right around the same, but this rushing attack is still going to drive this offense with Salter, Cooley, Lucas, and a ton of other rushing weapons. Liberty will be another dangerous and hard to stop offensive team in 2024. Now, when you go over and take a look at the defensive side here for the Liberty Flames, it definitely does not. It definitely loses some really, really, really good pieces, and we're going to start with the defensive line. Now, the secondary was the question mark for Liberty last season. It allowed 254 passing yards per game and got absolutely shredded when it went and played Oregon in their New Year's Six bowl game last season. But when you talk about the defensive line here for the Liberty Flames, again, does lose some really good, really, really good pieces. Kendi Charles is going to be gone off of this defensive line, defensive tackle from last year at 26 tackles and 3 sacks. You also do lose Brian Whitehead, who had 14 tackles, half a sack off the edge, and Tyshik Galloway, who is more of a depth piece than anything, 5 tackles for him last year. All those guys have found new homes through the transfer portal. So what does your defensive line, I should say not offensive line, your defensive line look like in 2024? Well, CJ Bazile Jr. will be coming back to lead this defensive line yet again. Off the edge last season, leading tackler among the defensive linemen, 49 tackles, 3 sacks last season. That was tied for the team lead with Kendi Charles, a team that had 25 sacks last year, but was able to distribute them pretty well. Bryce Dixon, Jay Hardy, Chris Bodie, Gray Carroll, and Bryson Jennings, all guys that come back and contributed a lot in their own ways last season. And then you get a lot of guys through the transfer portal. Eli Hall, Alvin Williams, Bretton Williams to boost up this defensive line for the Liberty Flames. Tyron Dupree is going to be gone out of this linebacker room. He is off to the NFL, and for good reason. He was really, really good. 123 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 pass defended, and 2 interceptions for Dupree last season. Huge loss in the linebacker room for the Liberty Flames. Who do you return? Well, Joseph Carter and Jerome Jolly will be back. Those guys were 2 top 5 tacklers for the team last season. Carter had 59 tackles. Jolly had 55. Jolly also able to pick off 2 passes, while Carter had an interception himself as well. But a lot of guys coming in through the transfer portal will be the majority of the depth in the defensive, or I should say, in the linebacker room for the Liberty Flames. Taylor Jackson is coming over from, that is East Carolina. Dexter Ricks is coming over here as well. I believe a JUCO transfer, although I'm not positive. Oh, no, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing there. Jamar Brown is coming in through the portal as well. He's coming over from Coastal Carolina. Aiden Vaughn is coming over from Wisconsin. You have some other transfers coming in as well. Ethan Crisp is coming over from Vanderbilt, and some other names in there as well. Apologies for reading the wrong line there. Now we will talk about the cornerback position as you lose a major piece to this defense from last season and a very, very talented defensive back in Kobe Singleton. Singleton has found a new home through the transfer portal in the Oregon State Beavers, and he was really, really good for this team last season. 41 tackles, led the team with 12 passes defended, and was second on the team with 4 interceptions a season ago. But the losses in the defensive backfield don't stop there. You do lose Brandon Bishop, who was your second leading tackler with 61, 3 passes defended, 3 interceptions last season. Preston Hodge is another guy that's going to find a new home through the transfer portal. He had 8 passes defended with 48 tackles last season. And Jalen Jimerson is gone as well. 22 tackles, 2 passes defended for him. So some pretty notable losses in that defensive secondary, which already was a little bit of a question mark for this defense last season. But hey, still a lot of good talent in this defensive backfield. Amarion Williams is coming back to this team. Williams last season, 37 tackles, 4 passes defended. Here is Dexter Ricks. He comes back after posting 11 tackles last year. And Marquise Bell will be back. But again, you felt like you were lacking something in the cornerback room. So you dive on into the transfer portal. You get a couple of guys to come over from the transfer portal realm. Most notably, in my opinion, is Dominic Hill. I believe he projects to have the most playing time. Although you did get a guy like Charles Yates coming over from Old Dominion. You do have Alex Oliver coming over from VMI as well. And in the safety room, Quentin Reese comes back. He was, again, a really good player for this defense last season. 55 tackles, 2 interceptions. You also do get back Brylan Green, who had 8 passes defended with 38 tackles and led the team with 5 interceptions a season ago. Corey Jones is also back while you dive into the portal and you go grab a guy like Eldrick Griffin, who, again, could be a really solid player for this defense and play some good playing time. Kickers are people, too. Let's show them some love. Max Morgan is back to do the punting duties. Nick Brown back to do the kicking duties. And you get a punter-kicker combo from the portal and Colin Carhu, who knows what kind of role he's going to play for the Flames special teams unit. But for this Flames defense, the rush defense was pretty good last season. Even though it does lose some big pieces, even though the defensive backfield does lose some big pieces, I think they supplemented well through the transfer portal. They got a lot of very talented guys in here. The defensive line, I mean, you look at how many names I put up there. There's 9 guys up there. The defensive line is loaded in 2024, and this is a defensive unit for the Liberty Flames that could definitely see some minor improvements in certain areas in 2024, if not massive improvements coming into next season. Now we talk about the Liberty Flames football schedule, and well, I got to be honest with you guys, it definitely is a little bit of an easier path than what some of the other teams in Liberty's situation has. Trying to vie for a spot in the college football playoff, the schedule bodes well. It's very, very favorable for the Liberty Flames. Sorry for the pause. I did just want to fix the coloring on something. Hey, every game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics. That's that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Flames are going to win pretty easily. Any game in yellow is going to be a close competitive game, but the Flames will come out on top, and any game in red is a loss. The season will start out with a win in week 1 against the Campbell Camels. Yes, that is their name and mascot. They're an FCS level program that will not be beating the Liberty Flames. They will be too much. New Mexico State could provide a little bit of an interesting test. A rematch of the Conference USA Championship game last season. They've got some good defensive pieces, but I definitely don't think New Mexico State has enough of what they need to be able to slow down this Liberty Flames run. A very competitive team in 2024. I think New Mexico State's going to put up a good fight here. Liberty's got to watch out because there are some good offensive pieces with this Aggie group, but I think Liberty and that rushing attack and that defensive front going to be able to take over. They go on the road and beat the New Mexico State Aggies. I think they get to come back home and they get a win against the UTEP Miners as well. UTEP is going to be one of those interesting teams to figure out this year, but again, they lose more talent through the transfer portal. There are some more things going on with that program. I believe some coaching changes, if I'm not mistaken, as well, although I think the head coach is still there. Anyways, UTEP is going to be a very interesting story to watch this year, but they will not be competing with the Liberty Flames. And I don't think East Carolina will be either. While I think the Pirates are going to be improved from their 2023 form, a season in which there was just a lot of struggle after losing the likes of Holton Ahlers and Keaton Mitchell and all of those very talented players that they had. 2024 is going to be a step back in the right direction, but I still don't see them being uber competitive with a team to Liberty's caliber. And then you enter the road game against the Appalachian State Mountaineers. And if you are going to try to look for a loss on this Liberty schedule, I definitely 110,000% think that this game right here is the most likely loss. And Flame fans, I'm so sorry, but I am giving you a loss here to the Appalachian State Mountaineers. Going on the road to play in that stadium is a very tough thing to do. That's a hostile crowd and usually a very, very good team. And they're going to be one of the best teams in the Sun Belt Conference this season. Yes, I know they lost Nate Noel through the portal. Yes, there are a couple other pieces leaving that team, but they still got a really good wide receiver room led by quarterback Joey Aguilar, who's going to be really good. They got some great defensive players coming in through the transfer portal. Pretty much all of them come into that secondary, including Miles Farmer, who is a former Nebraska player. Appalachian State's going to be a really good team this year, and I just don't think Liberty's going to be able to get past them. I think App State's going to do what they need to do to limit this Liberty run game, and especially offensively, especially offensively for App State. I think Joey Aguilar and this Mountaineer wide receiver room going to be able to take advantage of the pieces that Liberty lost in the secondary, and App State pulls off the win against the Liberty Flames. The Flames, again, will be close, will be competitive, but I think ultimately they will lose that game. Then you get your first bye week of the year before a Tuesday affair against the FIU Panthers, in which I have Liberty being able to win easily. FIU is a team that won more games than I thought they would win last season, but again, still not a team that I see up to Liberty's level at all. That's going to be a win for Liberty easily. Then you get your second bye week again, as it's just a weird week to play on a Tuesday, so you get a ton of rest coming in to a two-game stretch that I think could pose to be pretty challenging for the Liberty Flames. You have to go on the road to play the Kennesaw State Owls, and they are the new team entering the FBS ranks. Who knows what that is going to bring? Again, Sam Houston and Jacksonville State entered last season. One of them in Jacksonville State was really, really good. Sam Houston, they were pretty disappointing. So it's going to be tough to judge what Kennesaw State is going to do this season. I think they're going to be a fairly competitive team. I don't know that that leads to many wins, but I think they're going to claw, scratch, and fight with the Liberty Flames here. The Owls make a good impression against one of the Group of Five's better teams in 2024, but I think Liberty does go on the road and get the win. That rushing attack will be too much. Kadon Salter will be the difference maker, and Liberty will win that game. Much like I think is going to be the case against the Jacksonville State Gamecocks here. Again, if you're going to try to look for another loss at home for Liberty, if you're going to say, okay, what home game are they most likely to lose? I don't know why you would want to do such a thing, but sure, what home game are they most likely to lose? It's this game right here. Jacksonville State, the transition from FCS to FBS was pretty much seamless for this team. They were very competitive. They won a lot of games last season. They were darn near going to get into the Conference USA Championship game if they were eligible to do so. But Jacksonville State's going to be another very competitive team. There are a lot of good playmakers, but especially with this one being at home and with how dominant of a run game Liberty's going to have this year, I see the Flames being able to pull that one out, so the Gamecocks come up just short. With both of those latter two games being played on Wednesdays, you have a little bit of additional rest time before you have to go on the road and play the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, and I think you win this one pretty easily as well. Middle Tennessee has had a lot of solid players over the years, such as Blankenship Vadiato at quarterback, that I think is actually going to be a really talented player for Middle Tennessee this year. I just don't think there's much talent around him, especially to compete with a team like Liberty. They will go on the road and beat the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders, although that could be a game that, now that I'm thinking about it, could be highlighted in yellow, because again, Vadiato at quarterback is going to be one of those guys that's going to give Liberty's secondary some trouble. They will go on the road and beat UMass. That's a team that I think is starting to trend in the right direction, but again, UMass will just be outclassed in every facet by the Liberty Flames. You get to come back home and beat Western Kentucky, and while I think that I just gave away my prediction there, didn't I? Sure, I'll flash it up on screen. They're going to come back home and beat Western Kentucky. Again, another game at home that I feel like if you're going to look for a loss at home, maybe this is one where it happens. But again, I think Liberty a lot more talented than Western Kentucky. Liberty was able to supplement well defensively. Western Kentucky loses, again, a lot more pieces this year. So I think that's a win for Liberty, and I think the win on the road against Sam Houston will wrap the season up with an 11-1 record. Again, Sam Houston just trying to adjust to their new role as an FBS program, and They had some pretty solid wins last year, but I think they need some more time to adjust. So Liberty, I have at 11-1. Now, again, this schedule is super favorable. There is no Power 5 program on this schedule. 11-1. I might be being a little pessimistic here because, again, App State did lose a lot of talent. They could go on the road and easily win that game. 12-0 is clearly the ceiling. A berth in the college football playoff is clearly the ceiling for this team and is clearly in the realm of possibility. But I do have the Flames losing at least one game in 2024. I want to know what you think about the Flames in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. And Group of 5 Day continues and concludes with the Tulane Green Wave. Goodbye.